your education level or your lack of education or how involved you want to be. There's a lot of variables that we take into account, and then we say, okay, here's a plan. You start like this, that's great. And then we review it all the time. And we say, okay, we need to increase it, we're on track, we're not, this is what is happening. Because remember, when you're dealing with assets, the valuations that you place on an asset are always behind you. It's always in hindsight. It's never in front of you. And that's one of the challenges, right? Because you're always valuing what happened yesterday, and what you need is what's going to happen tomorrow. So that's a struggle. Yeah. So there are strategies everywhere from £50 a week up to £100 million, and they're different. Right? They range differently from everyone, but and from country to country, to be fair. Different countries have different tax laws, so with different vehicles. But from your point of view, at the sort of normal end, I'm not going to call it the low end because I'm in that boat as well. It's as tax efficient as you can get it. That's where you start. You use all the tax efficiencies, and then you step up into different things.
Hi guys, welcome back to the show. It's your girl Sarah right here on Relaks Radio, and I am super excited to be here, right? Because we're having a very interesting and important conversation, I might add, with regard to everything that is happening in the United Kingdom. All right. Now earlier we were talking about gambling outlets. We were talking about how some of the poorest areas in the United Kingdom do in fact have more than 10% of the gambling outlets in the United Kingdom, right? And we were talking about how essentially that's like the worst thing ever, because you're exploiting on people who have who are economically not well off, but also people who might have a gambling problem, people who might have a gambling addiction, right? And that's just really heartbreaking. Right. So basically, that's what it is. So that is what we were talking about. But right now, we're going to be talking about the fall of Waitrose. But before we actually head into that conversation, I want to very quickly remind you that you can, in fact, be a part of the show. All you need to do is just text me or call me on 078-5247-3473. Share your thoughts, share your opinions, because I would love to hear everything that you have to share with me as well. All right. And now let's actually head into our conversation, because we're going to be talking about we're going to be talking about the fall of Waitrose, right? And I also want to very quickly remind you that you can, in fact, be a part of the show. Go and like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel either, right? Because that will actually make life much easier for you as well. So don't forget to share your thoughts and opinions with me. And don't forget to download the app either. Now, app is easily accessible. It's available on both the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store. It's available for both iOS and Android devices. So make sure to download the app and get in touch with me and share your thoughts and opinions with me. All right. So now let's actually get into our conversation, because we're going to be talking about, we're going to be talking about the fall of Waitrose, right? Now, Waitrose has in fact been rated Britain's worst large online retailer for grocery freshness, and this was according to a research that was done, right? Now, the consumer group which with a question mark, actually investigated the quality and the longevity of fresh produce from British supermarkets. All right. And 12 undercover shoppers actually ordered more than 1,000 items from 6 retailers to basically examine how fresh their food and drink products were, right? And how long they lasted, right? Basically, this was the purpose of this research. Right. And each shopper actually ordered the same 16 perishable items from each of the online supermarkets, right? And basically what happened was that analysts actually totaled up the number of full hours remaining from the time of delivery to midnight and on the use by date for each item, and they calculated an average time per supermarket. All right. Now, what came on top obviously was Tesco, because Tesco came top for freshness with items lasting an average of 11 days. All right. And this was just, and this was by totaling the number of full hours that are remaining after you deliver the items and obviously, the time remaining after you deliver the items to midnight and until the use by date of each item. Okay, so obviously number one was Tesco, right? And the supermarket actually showed the expected shelf life of perishable items on its website, and they also had no examples of damaged packaging or food that had gone off by the time it was delivered, right? Unlike some of the other rivals, right? Now, Tesco was in fact closely followed by Asda, which basically had an average of 10.5 days of shelf life on its products on all grocery items, okay? Now, however, they did deliver one packet of bacon on its use by date, all right? But that was just one of the problems that was there with Tesco, right? And or rather Asda, right? So Tesco is number one, and that was followed very closely by Asda, right? And Asda basically had a pack of bacon that was delivered on its use by date, and also the online only firm Ocado was closely behind Asda with an average life of 10.4 days for their products, right? So Waitrose, which actually launched its online business last year after ending their partnership with Ocado, was in fact on the bottom of the table with items that lasted only an average of 8.6 days. So in comparison to Tesco, Asda, and Ocado, which basically have 11 and 10 days, or an average of 11 and 10 days with regard to the perishable items that they have, Waitrose actually had 8.6 days, right? And something else that it did was that it also delivered 2 packets of beef that actually appeared to have gone off despite being within their use by dates. All right. And what happened was then Waitrose actually said, you know what, we always train our partners to pick products with the longest best before date for online deliveries. However, that they're very, very sorry that this fell short of their high standards and that they're committed to making this better for their customers. All right. So that is what that conversation is about. I honestly think that they have a lot to fix on in terms of freshness, in terms of quality, and in terms of making sure they give the best produce, right? Because look, if people are paying money for all of this, and they should definitely get what their money is worth. All right, and now let's actually head into a break, because after that we will be back to discuss more of this. So until then, make sure you stay tuned. Hi guys, welcome back to the show. It's your girl Sarah right here on Relax Radio. And I am super excited to be here to share my thoughts, share my opinions with you. But also because we're having a very interesting conversation, all right? We're talking about the fall of Waitrose. We're talking about, how the United Kingdom, basically the poorest areas in the United Kingdom actually has most of the gambling outlets within the country, and how they're essentially knowingly exploiting poor people, knowing that they are financially struggling, but also knowing that some of them actually have gambling addictions. All right. So that is what we're talking about, and I'm super excited to be here. So if you want to share your thoughts and if you want to share your opinions with me, feel free to do that. All you need to do is just text me or call me on 078-524-73473. Share your thoughts, share your opinions, but also make sure to go follow us on our socials. Now you can like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, and actually make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. All right, that way you can actually make sure that you're always informed and you're always updated about the very latest, about everything that we talk about. And also you can make sure that you download our app. Now, our app is in fact available for download on both the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store. So if you, regardless of whether you have an iOS device or an Android device, you can actually make sure that you are always tuned and updated about all of these things that we are talking about, right? And regardless of where you are in the world, regardless of what time of the day it is for you, you can always, share your thoughts and share your opinions with us with this conversation that we have right here on Relax Radio, all right? So don't forget to share your thoughts and don't forget to share your opinions. Now let's actually head back into our conversation, which is basically about the fall of Waitrose, all right? And before we actually head into that, I want to very quickly talk to you about, about the situation in Afghanistan, right? About how the United Kingdom plans to have offshore settlement for Afghan refugees, given the fact that, they're going through a very difficult time at this point of time, right? Now, obviously, nobody expected the Kabul, or rather the Taliban takeover of Kabul to happen so fast, to happen so quickly. It basically happened overnight, right? And with the former president Ashraf Ghani fleeing Afghanistan, that in fact just cemented and solidified the Taliban's takeover of Afghanistan. All right. And obviously, along with this takeover came a lot of groups that were actually put at risk, right? So women were put at risk, people who worked with Western embassies like the United Kingdom embassy, or rather, the British embassy and the American embassy, people who worked with them, translators, interpreters, they were in fact put in a lot of risk as well, along with journalists as well, right? So it's in fact quite scary and it's terrifying, because if you saw all of that footage, right, if you saw all of those terrible things that actually took place in Afghanistan, you would have seen how terrible it was for all of these people. I mean, look, we literally saw people fall to their deaths from the planes because they were in a mad scramble to get out of their country. But also we saw how women were unknowingly giving their mothers, actually were giving their babies to unknown people to protect their lives, and these mothers don't even know what's going to happen to their babies, right? And that's just how sad and terrible the situation in Afghanistan is. All right. So with all of that, we've had plans to evacuate these refugees, make sure that until everything is sorted out in their country, they have a place to stay, they have a place to live. And basically, this is what the UK plans to do through the offshore settlement for Afghan refugees as well. All right. Now, Britain actually plans to establish also offshore asylum centers for Afghan refugees in countries like Pakistan or Turkey. And ministers will actually and ministers have actually admitted that they have actually admitted that the United Kingdom might not actually be able to rescue everyone who is eligible for resettlement before the troops leave Kabul. All right. Now, this was actually said by the Defense Secretary Ben Wallace, and he told this in a newspaper article as well. Now, about 1,429 Afghans have been evacuated from Kabul since last Friday as a part of this Arab relocation scheme, right? And this was a scheme that was in fact designed to help interpreters and others who have helped the British during their 20 years in Afghanistan. All right, but it's also estimated that a similar number or more remain in the country. So these offshore settlement for Afghan refugees will probably be in places like Pakistan and Turkey. So it's important to keep that in mind as well, right? And now we're actually going to head into a small break, and after that we will be back to discuss this further. So until then, make sure you stay tuned.
The valuations that you place on an asset are always behind you. It's always in hindsight. It's never in front of you. And that's one of the challenges, right? Because you're always valuing what happened yesterday, and what you need is what's going to happen tomorrow.